And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today we're talking the NBA, just talking about some of these major headlines in the NBA, some of these trade talks, and then also to just kind of looking at the schedule and just looking at some of the standouts on the Eastern and the Western Conference front. And so let's start with the Eastern Conference. And so we still see the Cleveland Cavaliers are at the top of the Eastern Conference along with the Boston Celtics. I think that clearly these two teams have been the best teams. I think that with the Orlando Magic, as they get more healthier, I think that you're going to see them maybe challenge Boston and Cleveland. But right now, I think that these two teams have really stood out as the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And so next with the New York Knicks, I think that they have really settled in very well with the Towns trade. I think that they are starting to look very good. And I think that this is a team that is starting to come together as well, along with Bridges. I think that he's starting to really fit in with what Tibbs and that philosophy is. And so I think that the Knicks are going to make a push here in this next portion of the season. The Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. And so the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that they have been surging as of late. Currently, right now, at the time of this broadcast, they're playing for the Cup in Vegas. And so they've been doing some great things over the last couple weeks of the season. Certainly, I think that they still are not there where they want to be defensively, but I think getting Chris Middleton back has been huge for them. And with the Miami Heat, look, the Miami Heat have trade talks around them because there's the report that Jimmy Butler may be traded. We're seeing the rumors of possibly the Mavericks. You got the Golden State Warriors, the Rockets. The Suns were somehow listed to the Miami Heat, even though the Suns are over the second apron. So it's going to be extremely hard to go out there and get Jimmy Butler. But, I just think that moving on from Jimmy Butler, it probably is theoretically the right thing for the Miami Heat, especially if they're not going to look to re-sign him. It's just a question of how do you get this deal to really come together. And so I think that that is going to be interesting because currently at the time of this recording, Sunday is when the contracts where players have signed just this offseason are going to be eligible to be moved. So December the 15th, which is Sunday, is going to be a huge date around the NBA because now you have contracts that are movable after they've signed here in the offseason. So we'll see if anything really heats up there. But the Miami Heat, they might be maybe trading Jimmy Butler. And so that's going to be interesting. With the Atlanta Hawks, look, the Hawks have played very well. They're currently playing the Milwaukee Bucks out in Vegas. And so I think that they've done a terrific job, especially with Jalen Johnson. He's done great. Trae Young's played pretty good this year. I think that they've really hit with the first pick in the draft too, as well. So that's kind of worked out for them. And so Atlanta quietly, I think, is trending towards being a play-in team. But, they have some interesting pieces. And so with the Pacers, they have actually made a trade with the Miami Heat for Thomas Bryant. So they go out there and they get some centers to kind of go behind, or a center behind Miles Turner. The Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets. And so the Bulls have some trade talks definitely around them. So it looks like between either Vooch, Levine, and really we've heard that the whole team is actually, they might be tradable, all right, because nobody's untouchable according to the rumors and things like that. And so with the Chicago Bulls, it looks like it's heating up currently at the time here. We did see a report that recently came out that for Vooch, their center, that the Bulls are looking for a first-round pick in exchange for him. And he's played very well. He's probably a top 5 center in the league this year. Do the Chicago Bulls make a deal? It'd be something that would really put this team in the right direction. I guess we'll see. I mean, but they're definitely a team that has been in these trade talks. The Brooklyn Nets, they've been better than advertised. I thought that the Brooklyn Nets would be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, but they played pretty good. I've heard some stuff, rumors here that maybe Cam Johnson might be on the move. We'll see what happens with that. And so with the rest of the Eastern Conference, Detroit, the Sixers, Hornets, Raptors, and then you have the Wizards. And so, look, the Raptors, they're in a very much just a rebuild mode here with their youth movement. The Wizards, the same thing. The Hornets have been injured, and they don't have LaMelo Ball. And with the Sixers, They just got more injury news because Embiid went down with a fracture, I think, to his nose or whatever there. So that looks pretty bad that they continue to go through some injuries. And the Pistons, look, they just haven't been able to put it together. And so next, as we shift focus and we look into the Western Conference here, and so OKC, they continue to be good. I think that they got the boost once they got Hartenstein back. I knew that that was going to be the case, and I think that they're going to catch another boost once they get Holmgren back as well. And so once they get these bigs back, they have Alex Caruso. It seems like it's a win-win trade for OKC. I'm curious to see what they're going to do in this next half of the season with the Grizzlies. And so the Grizzlies, I think that they have been really just benefiting from the fact that they're getting healthy, because that was really the story for them last season. And you can see that that's the story this year, that if Morant goes down or if, Jaren Jackson Jr. is down, like this team, they struggle. But they are deeper than they have been in quite some time. They're right back to second in the West, but still don't necessarily believe in the Grizzlies, but we'll see what happens here over these next 25 games or so. Next up with the Rockets have been playing very well. They look like that they've taken a step from last year. They're also playing for the cup as well. And I just think that with them, it's the continued growth of the younger players. They do have some veterans as well, excuse me. And so the Houston is moving in the right direction. And so I think that maybe they might be a trade away from really possibly putting themselves in a situation where they might be able to maybe get out of the East or out of the Western Conference, excuse me. So next up, the Mavs. So the Dallas Mavericks, Golden State, the Nuggets, look, those teams are teams that have traditionally been good over the years in the West. The Mavs, I think with them, the biggest thing is just continuing to really solidify that bench and being able to support their starters out there. With the Warriors, they're in a situation where I think that they might benefit from a trade. There is the speculation that they might be looking to trade for a player that can come in and give them some offense. They've been linked to a player like Vooch, which is the center for the Bulls. Makes a lot of sense because it's a center, and also to somebody that can spread the floor. Defensively, they have a team that can adjust with what Vooch brings. And so I think that Golden State is going to make a deal, but they've been pretty smart about it. They don't want to make a deal that's going to set the franchise back. The Denver Nuggets need to make a deal. I think that they still very much need to fix their bench. That is going to be something that I think that they should be in the trade market for. But the Nuggets have been holding on. They're 13-10. I'd expect for them to qualify for the playoffs and not be in a play-in situation, but we'll see what happens. The Timberwolves have probably been the most disappointing team, I'd say, in the Western Conference because of the year that they had last year. They really haven't been able to put it together. And it's interesting because Anthony Edwards has played pretty well. You can tell that he's worked on his game and things like that. And that trade where they got Julius Randle, it just has not really worked out just yet. I know it is just, through the first 20-some games or whatever, but maybe within these next 20, you'll see something happen here for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But right now, they just haven't looked good. The Phoenix Suns, it's been up and down for them, mainly because Kevin Durant has been out of the lineup. They're a much better team once he's in the lineup. And I've said this before, it is going to come down to just the health for Phoenix. And so I don't think that they're going to make a trade, even though they need to. But with them being over the second apron, it's going to be tough for them to really make some moves. Next up, the Clippers and the Lakers. The Clippers and Lakers, the Clippers, hopefully they'll get Kawhi back. I did see the report, I think just maybe last week or earlier this week, that Kawhi might be back in the next 2 weeks. I think that that's going to help this team. But I don't know how much it is going to help them because this is a team that, once they lost Paul George and then with Kawhi out, with the West being so competitive, I'm not sure that the Clippers are going to be able to get up there. And plus, they don't have Russell Westbrook as well. So that bench, it's very interesting with the Clippers. And they need to make a move, but just what pieces would they move? It could be a setback either way. With the Lakers started off well. They fell back in the standings, and they're in an interesting place too, because I think they need a trade as well, especially if they're going to maximize this window with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They can make something happen. I think that they're slightly under the second apron, so they do have a little bit of wiggle room. But will the Lakers make a move? Not sure, but they definitely need to do something. They've been falling down in the standings after a hot start with the Spurs, the Kings, the Trailblazers, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. And so I think that the Kings, beside or behind the Minnesota Timberwolves, might be one of the most disappointing teams in the West, because once they got DeMar DeRozan over there, I thought that they were going to really put it together immediately, especially when you have De'Aaron Fox and you have DeRozan, who are two of the best clutch players in the league last season. It just hasn't happened. They've been 13-13. They haven't been consistent. I think that there is room for this team to get back in it, but just this slow start is something I did not anticipate with them. Trailblazers, Jazz, look, I clearly think that they're in a rebuild, and the Spurs, they're getting better, but clearly they still have some more really pieces that they need to add in order to start being serious again. And with the Pelicans, it's been a disappointing season, and it's all been around injuries, and they've also been in trade talks. And so, look, with Brandon Ingram, I think he's been out indefinitely with an ankle injury. And he's definitely a player on an expiring contract that he could be moved. It sounds like the Pelicans are not really interested in bringing him back long term, or really giving him the numbers that he wants on his next contract. I mean, that's just speculation. I'm not in the front office, but that's just some of the stuff that I'm seeing. And so that just suggests to me that the Pelicans would probably like to move on. But with him not being on the court, I'm pretty sure his trade value is low. So you're probably not going to be able to move on from him there. And then if you are wanting to move on from Zion Williams, the same thing, or Zion Williamson, excuse me, it'd be the same thing, because he is just in a situation where he has not played due to the hamstring and stuff like that. And so his trade value is probably low too. But we'll see what happens if the Pelicans are in fact active. I mean, I think that at this point in time that the Pelicans might need to do something drastic here, because continuing to try to run it back is not working for the Pelicans, and they clearly need to shake it up. And so with that being said, that is today's show. We just talked about some of the updates around the NBA and some of these trade rumors. Be looking for things to really heat up starting on Sunday. Again, December the 15th, it's a big, so to speak, kind of deadline, because you have players that signed just this summer. They're eligible to be traded starting December the 15th. You have a couple players that might be eligible come January the 15th, but some things might heat up here across the league. But it is going to be challenging because there is that new CBA out there with those first aprons and the second aprons. It does complicate things a lot. And so anyway, make sure that you press the like and subscribe button. It means a lot to us here as we try to go ahead and increase the subscriber count. Make sure that you go ahead and check us out on Spotify as well. This is Real Talk Sports with Rico. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.